You dive into battle ready to spread democracy, and then you die. You dive in again and die. You keep dying, and then you die some more. Welcome to Helldivers, and you're probably searching for this beginner's guide because you keep dying. Well, this Helldivers 2 beginner's guide is going to get you better at the game, but dying is an integral part of Helldivers because you're not supposed to survive. So, let's get into it, and first things first, I want to provide you with a little bit of value right off the bat. Go to Options, go to your mouse and keyboard, go to Change Bindings. Down here for the stratagems, change up, down, left, and right to something other than W, A, S, and D. I use the arrow keys. The reason you're doing this is because now you will be able to run around and call in stratagems. That makes the game so much better, and I've honestly seen some level 40 and 50 players standing still while trying to call in their stratagems, and that just sucks. So now, let's get into the Helldivers 2 Beginner's Guide. So first things first, let's talk about stratagems. So stratagems are basically abilities that you can have. When you start a game, you're going to be able to use 4 stratagems. If there's a special ability or special disability active for the mission, you might only be able to use 3. Stratagems are the bread and butter of Helldivers. Without stratagems, you can't really get anywhere, especially once you get past those basic levels. So yeah, let's go into stratagems, how they work, and what they do. So first off, let's go over here to ship management. Here you've got your stratagems section, and this is where you can buy a variety of different stratagems. There's jump packs, there's special weapons that you can call in to use, there's anti-personnel minefields, machine guns, and everything in between. So generally, when you're deciding what stratagems to pick and which ones to sort of unlock the ones that sound the coolest to you. This is a game all about having fun, but if you're looking for some good stratagems to use, generally what you want to do is you want to have 1 stratagem or 2 stratagems that are going to be sort of anti-boss stratagems. These are going to be really good to use on the bigger enemies. Personally, I like to have one that's handheld and one that is not. So in this case, if you're going against bots, I like to use something like the expendable anti-tank rocket launcher. This is a one-time use weapon. 2 of them are going to drop in a pod, and the reason I like this is because you can use it to shoot down drop ships. You can also use it to shoot bugs. But yeah, bring something like that. An anti-tank's good. A flamethrower is actually pretty good. It's not really a boss, but it's really good at handling big enemies. And you've got rocket launchers and things like that. So basically, if it does like a huge amount of damage, or if it looks like a rocket launcher, is probably meant for big bosses. If it's something more like a flamethrower or machine gun, that's really good for controlling groups of enemies. And some of these are pretty versatile, so you can use them against bosses too. I mean, you could use your pistol against a boss, but it really isn't gonna work because bosses, they boss. Now, orbital cannons, these are really great against bosses. You can call one in and it'll strike right down on the boss. Personally, I prefer to use eagles. These are a little bit more, they've got a wider sort of run through. I like them. You've got airstrikes, cluster bombs, napalm airstrikes, and then you get this 500 kilogram bomb. These are really good stratagems to use against bosses. You get a big enemy that comes in, you call in this stratagem, does a lot of damage, and it'll sort of bust them up. These are also really good stratagems for blowing up eggs or anything like that. If you've got a mission that says you've got to destroy a certain number of areas, these are really good stratagems to have. Personally, I always pick one, and generally I try to bring 2. So usually I'm bringing like a bomb and maybe a napalm airstrike or an airstrike or something like that. Orbital lasers and orbital guns basically work the same way. They're just a little bit different as far as targeting goes. I don't really prefer them, but there's really no reason for that. It's just personal preference. But yeah, between these 2, generally you're going to want to take 2 of these in, 1 of these, and then if you get a more defensive mission, one where you've got to secure points or something like that, it's also really good to bring in a machine gun, Gatling sentry, mortar sentry, or something like that. With mortars though, do note that you've got to know what you're doing and place them correctly, and your whole team's got to play to that strategy, because otherwise they're going to cause a lot of team killing. It's important to note here that team killing is always enabled in Helldivers, so any of these things can take out your team. And if you're looking for a way to be taken out less, the Shield Generator Pack. This is a really overpowered stratagem currently, and I always make room for it. So generally when I'm dropping in, I'm going to have a generator pack. If it's a more defensive mission, I'm going to have 2 of these, like 2 machine guns, or a machine gun and a mortar sentry or something like that. If, however, it's a more offensive mission, I'm going to have 2 of these, the Eagle Airstrike, and, you can throw an Orbital or another Eagle in there. And then finally, I usually try to have at least one gun that I can use. Right now, I tend to prefer the Flamethrower just because that is really overpowered, but the anti-tank gun's pretty good, and, yeah. That would be my recommendation for stratagems. Also, there's something important to note here. This would be ship modules. A lot of people just sort of gloss over this. They don't really look into it. And they find out later that this is really the difference between a level 1 player and a level 50 player or level 100 player. So, the way ship modules work is these sort of make your stratagems more powerful. It's going to slow cooldown time, or it's going to increase lower cooldown time. Geez, I'm a little bit of a dumbass sometimes. It's going to do a bunch of other stuff like make them do more damage, maybe they'll have more ammo, things like that, but generally it's really, really good to have all of these if you can. You'll notice, again, I'm not the smartest, so I haven't really done too much here, but it's definitely something that you want to do. I like to make these guides when I'm in the early stages of a game, so you can see I haven't unlocked everything or anything like that, because beginner's guides are best made by people who just got out of that beginner stage, or at least that's my take on it. So, yeah, there's a bunch of really good stuff here. Generally, whichever stratagem you find yourself using the most, those are the ones you're going to want to upgrade first. And then you can just go through and get everything else, because honestly, just upgrade everything you can. There's no reason not to. It's the same with stratagems. Unlock everything you can. Hoarding your currency doesn't really do anything. And you can also see, for stratagems, you can see the prices right down here. You can see this is 6,000 R. For the ship modules, you can see this is 60 common resources. Get rare and then like super rare or whatever it's called. These are all things that you're going to find in game with the exception of super credits. You can find those in game, but you can also buy them. And the way super credits work is this is basically the monetization strategy that Helldivers 2 uses. You can either buy their in-game currency or you can find it. Sometimes you're going to get rewards in the form of in-game currency for completing certain war bonds things, and other times you're going to be able to find them in the game. I've got videos on how to find them. We're not going to be going over that today, though. So, you can use your super credits here to buy things in the store. These are all cosmetic, or to buy war bonds. What you're going to notice is there's a bunch of different war bonds here. This one comes automatically unlocked, so everybody has this. The other ones you're going to have to decide to buy. Each war bond, whether it's one that you buy or one that you got for free, is going to have pages like this. And the way it works is you go through each page and you can pick the things that you want. What you have to do to unlock the next page is spend X amount of medals. So in this case, I need to spend 167 more medals to unlock this page. Some important things to note here, and we're going to go over this in more depth later. Guns are here. You should always unlock the guns. You can get super credits, you can get grenades, and you can get boosters. So boosters are something that I see a lot of new players not using. I'm going to go over how to use those later, but make sure you always use those when you're going into a mission. So yeah, you can unlock a bunch of guns, cosmetics, everything like that. Just keep unlocking stuff. Eventually you are going to get there. You're going to get enough medals to get all the stuff you want, and then you can farm some super credits and get one of these sort of DLC or cosmetic packs. They're not just cosmetic because they do give you new guns and things like that. Although I will note, right now it seems like most of those guns are getting a little bit of a nerf. It seems like the balancing is constantly changing. So if you buy a gun that seems very overpowered, that does not mean that gun is going to continue to remain overpowered. I think that's important to note because it can really suck to buy something expected not to get nerfed and then see it nerfed. So now we're going to go into the armory. So this is where you're going to pick your weapon. So you got assault rifles, marksman rifles, submachine guns, shotguns, energy-based guns. Personally, I do like shotguns. A lot of people are going to say assault rifles are the way to go. You've also got all these other guns. Don't just play around with everything. There's a lot of people that, there's a lot of higher level players that are going to tell you to run the meta and all of that. But if you're a lower level, it's especially fun just to play with the guns, see what works for you, see what you're having fun with. And once you get up to the higher level, if you know how to utilize these guns correctly, if you bring in the right stratagems, it's completely possible that you can run something that isn't meta, still have a great time, and complete the mission without hindering any of your teammates. Secondary weapons, that's pretty obvious. These are secondary weapons that you have. Then you've got grenades. With grenades, you do things like stun grenades and smoke grenades, and those can be useful in certain situations, but generally as a new player, you're just going to want to go with things that go boom because it does make things easier. For primary, I'd stick with shotguns and assault rifles. Any of them are going to work. Also, do note that the weapons do have traits. So over here you can see on the right hand side, this is a light armor penetrating weapon. This one's a medium armor penetrating weapon. Light armor, medium armor. You see the drill here? You know, light armor, medium armor. Light armor, medium, light armor again. Whoops, we broke that spell. But yeah, you can see these all have different little stats to them and everything like that. But yeah, generally, yeah, just read the stats, figure out what works for you, or just look up the meta. There's a bunch of videos on it and people talking about it on Reddit. So now let's go over to the armory, and this is important to note. Cape and helmet are purely cosmetic. The armor is not. So different armors have different abilities. Also, light armor tends to be a lower armor rating, so damage is done a lot quicker to you. Also, it's light armor, so you know, perks and stuff like that. But you can run faster. You see here, speed 550, armor, in this case 70, in that case 50, speed here is 530. If you go to medium armor, you're going to see your armor rating jumps up a bit. You're sitting at 100 here, right? Like 100, 150, something like that. And your speed is 500 for all these armor types that I've got. So this armor does seem pretty overpowered right here. 150 armor rating, 500 speed. Why not go with it? Because if you look on the right hand side again, you're going to notice that there's a bunch of different passives. So here you go, 50% chance to not die when taking lethal damage, prevents all damage from bleeding if chest hemorrhages. And you can see there's a bunch of different things like that and perks and everything like that. So do look into those when you're picking your armor, picking your favorite armors. And then down here you've got heavy armor. This is a higher armor rating. The speed is a little bit lower, but yeah, overall, you know, you pick the armor that fits the battle you're going into. If you're doing some sort of extermination mission, heavy armor can work because you're not running too far. But if you go into some big old mission, you take heavy armor, you're going to be slow as, and your teammates are probably going to leave you behind because, let's be honest, it's your fault that you made a dumb decision and not theirs. Now, my recommendation, if you're new, just go with medium armors. Those are pretty safe, like, selections. You're not going to have to worry too much about which one to pick for the mission. Find a medium armor that looks cool and works for you, and go with it. Now, for the character, you can change your player card, everything like that. Also, if you're looking to change your title, that's over here, so I can change my title to Chief. I'm now Master Chief. Over here you got your boosters. Again, we're going to go into this a little bit later because that comes into play later. And then you got your career stats. So now that we're done with that, let's actually drop into a mission, or let's actually go into how missions work. So this is where you select the mission that you're going to be going into. Pretty obvious. If you go back, you can see the whole map, you can see how everything's going, where players are fighting and everything like that. The people fighting in Earth are people who just joined the game, and probably some of you watching this guide right now. So you've got major orders, and then you got personal orders. Major orders, that's something everybody needs to do. We work together to do those things. Whether it's take over a sector or kill so many enemies, we're all working together in this. Every enemy you kill, every enemy my friend kills, every enemy some random dude in China kills, that all goes into one pool and that counts towards the current major order that's going on. Now, when you go down to personal orders, those are things that you specifically have to do. So here I've got to extract with 5 rare samples. I do that, I get 15 medals. You complete this major reward, you get 45. This also affects the storyline, which is something a lot of players really do like. So yeah, I like it too, by the way. But yeah, it affects the storyline. There's been some leaks on that. I've got a video going over how the storyline works, but it is really, really cool that that's how everything works. Also down at the bottom, notice this is where you can select sort of the gameplay difficulty. So when it comes to difficulty, you've got to unlock the difficulties. And one of the things a lot of players are going to wonder, or that I wondered, is how that works. So you can do an operation like this. This would be you're sort of the one running these missions. You complete 3 missions at a difficulty, and you're going to unlock the next difficulty. And the thing here is you've got to do it without failing. You can complete the mission and not extract, but you do have to complete all the missions. Now over here you've got random missions that you can jump into. If you jump into a mission and it's that last mission on this chain of 3, if that mission is completed, you also unlock the next difficulty. So you don't have to be the one hosting the games to unlock the difficulty. Also, it's really important to point out here, when it comes to resource gathering, finding super credits or anything like that, it is all shared. If you kill a teammate and take their resources, you are being a dick, but you're actually not getting ahead. You're just being a dick. One thing though you can do is you could take a teammate's perks, their special guns and stuff that drops. Make sure you don't do that because again, you're just being a dick. So now let's jump into a mission and go over how everything works here. Let's find one that I like. You can see each mission is going to tell you everything about it, how many players are in, how much time's left, everything like that. Let's go with an easy mission, actually, or challenging mission, let's say. No, we'll go easy. I said easy. Let's go easy. So here we go. This is an eradication mission. Let's jump into this one. And now they're already probably in the game here. You can see I'm picking my stratagems. So this is an eradication mission, very small map. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go with 2 sort of sentries. I'm going to go with something that's pretty good at taking out automatons. I like the anti-tank weapon because I can shoot down their ships. And let's go with some big old boom because there's going to be some bosses. Now this is also important right here. This is your booster. So you can see you've got different boosters that are going to affect all your teammates. I like the vitality enhancement. Allows all Helldivers to resist injuries, so why not? But yeah, there's a bunch of little boosters here. You can read up on those, but always take one in. If you're looking to change your equipment, so if I want to go with heavy armor, this is where I would do it. And let's just jump into this. So when you're in the middle of a mission, events can happen. So you can get fire tornadoes, asteroid impacts, and a bunch of other stuff that can happen. It's completely random when that kicks off, but the effect that you get is based on the planet that you're on. So now let's go into battle. So first things first, you drop in, get a feel for the situation. Also with the automatons, shoot for the eyes. Anything that glows red, that's a good thing to shoot. And with most enemies, you can actually dismember them. I'm probably not going to be able to do it because this is like, people are killing them, but you can dismember enemies. So let's go ahead, let's drop a machine gun. Let's grab that anti-tank gun. And let's also, why not? We're going to drop a Gatling gun too, because why not? So we're going to drop all these here. So here we go, we've got our anti-tank round. And let's see if a ship comes in. We're going to try and use it on a ship that comes in. Now we got a drop ship coming in. Let's shoot it down. So you shoot that engine. That's going to take the drop ship out, along with anything that is on the drop ship. It looks like one of my teammates took my rocket. So it sucks, but I get it because there's 2 rockets dropped, and they probably didn't think I was going to use it. Now let's go ahead and use the, well, we won't use the big bomb yet. We could, but we won't. Now, as far as what you can do, if you hit control, that's how you use your stratagems. Note how I can run around and use my stratagems. That's because of that thing that I told you earlier. Now, if you go ahead and hit, that's the Windows key. If you hit Alt, you can dive. Diving does slow you down, but it's nice if there's a big attack coming in. You can dive, and sometimes that attack will miss you. Also, it's a good way to get down fast if you got a machine gun coming your way and you don't want to be shot by it. Tab is how you open up your map, and you can see all the resources your team has gathered, XP, credits, and the map. Reloading has to be done by you. That's one thing that's worth noting here, because a lot of players forget to reload. They're going to just play the game, and yeah, you got to reload your guns. You got to do it manually. If you don't hit R, that gun is not going to reload, even if you're out of ammo at some point. Another thing worth noting is when you reload a gun, you are getting rid of all the ammunition that is in the current magazine. So if you got a gun that's only used 1 bullet, you're throwing away all the other bullets when you go to reload. So be smart about reloading. So you can see easy missions are actually like pretty easy. It makes sense. But it's really good for teaching people and sort of figuring out the game. You can just take it easy, chill, sort of do what you want. Once you get up to Helldiver difficulty, you're almost not expected to survive those missions. It's like every single mission you run, you're going to be getting by on the hair of your teeth. And you can see that guy just took my gun, which is very rude of him, but he did shoot down the dropship, so I'll let it go. But yeah, try not to take your teammates' gear unless it's like a really dire situation or the teammate allows you to. If you're done, you do have to extract from the mission. You see the ship coming in right there. Let's go run down. Once you get on the ship, that starts off an extraction timer. So make sure you don't get on those ships unless your teammates are already in the area that they can get on. So you see these guys aren't jumping on yet, so I'm not going to jump on yet either. This guy's also invisible, which is a bug. So the first person gets on, you can see that timer starts. So you get 17 seconds to jump on. I'll let him go first, and then I'll go. And that's it. We've just completed the mission. Extraction doesn't matter as far as completing the mission goes and liberating a planet. That's what counts towards the story and everything like that. But it does get you extra points, so you always want to try and extract if you can. But the mission always comes first. And that is the Helldivers 2 Beginner's Guide. There's a lot more to go over, so I've got a tips video linked right here, but hopefully you have a great time, and remember, the most important thing in Helldivers 2 is to spread democracy and have a little bit of fun. Until next time, peace.